You are listening to the Lawns and Life Podcast, a show built for DIYers who like to learn, grow, and have a little bit of fun along the way. I'm your host, Devin, the DIY lawn coach, and thank you so much for coming back for another week. Well, I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. As I always say, I really do appreciate it. But hey, today's podcast, we're going to be talking about irrigation systems. I was thinking about if I had to do it all over again, what are some things that I wish I would have done? So maybe you're thinking about getting an irrigation system. What are some game changers, some things that you must have if you're getting a new irrigation system? So settle in, sit back, let's get into the podcast. All right, y'all. So thank you so much for coming back for another week. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about irrigation systems, and I'm talking about in-ground irrigation systems. Again, I've had mine for about 4 seasons now, and I absolutely love it. But what are some things that if I had to maybe do it again, maybe some things that I would change? What are some maybe some advice that I would give you if you are looking to get an irrigation system? Just some things to look out for, just some things to consider. So again, I really appreciate you coming and checking out the episode. But as we always do, let's do this week's mindful moment first, and then we'll jump into the meat of the podcast.
It can be hard to slow down and notice things in a busy world. Mindful moments is where we pause for a moment to reflect on the here and now. After all, life is happening now. We simply need to take time to notice. These small yet profound experiences remind us that life is not about the destination, but the journey we take to get there.
All right, guys, so this week's mindful moment is about just remembering the importance of family. We're moving into a season right now. We just wrapped up Thanksgiving. We've got Christmas on the horizon. And as I was sitting around over Thanksgiving, just kind of pondering and looking around across the living room as I was sitting watching some football, I'm just so thankful for my family, as I know you guys are too. And I wanted to take this mindful moment and just soak it in. I think, something that my mom told me a long time ago was, at the end of the day, your family is all you got sometimes. Your friends come and go. People that they come and go, but your family is forever. And like I said, I was sitting around watching some football games and just watching my family, watching them interact with each other. Again, I don't have a perfect family. I don't know anybody that does. We all have our own issues, whether it's a mother-in-law or a brother-in-law or whatever. We all have our issues, different relationships and challenges with family. I am no different. Lord knows I am no different. But I appreciate my family. I love my kids. I love my wife. I love my wife's family. Do I love them all the time? No, probably not. But I'm just reminded as we move closer to Christmas that really, as things kind of slow down in the lawn and we just reflect on our family and the importance of family and how, sometimes we just take our family for granted. I've got my mom who lives roughly 2 hours away from me, and we drove down and went and saw her over Thanksgiving break, and she just moved into a new house, and it was just incredible to get to see her and spend time with her. And I know one day all of that's going to be gone, and my mom is an incredible person. She's been there for me my entire life. She's one of my heroes. Spending time with my wife's family, it was just incredible. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed time with your family as we move towards Christmas and New Year's. And really, that's really what's important. We talk about the different seasons and Christmas and New Year's and, all of that's great, and getting presents is great. But, as I've gotten older, I've realized just spending time with your family is just so precious. So hope you guys are enjoying time with your friends and family as well, just like I am. But just wanted to take this week's mindful moment and just reflect on that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's mindful moment. right, so let's get into the meat of the podcast. We're talking irrigation system. So I've had my irrigation system now going on. I think this is maybe the fourth season that I have had it, and I absolutely love it. Having an irrigation system, for me, I have a large lawn. Whether you have a large lawn or not, having an irrigation system is an absolute game changer. As we all know, the importance of water. You can't have a nice lawn without water. So therefore, having an irrigation system just makes it so much easier. You don't have to wait on Mother Nature to bring rain. You create your own rain. And I'm extremely happy with my system. It's a huge investment. There's no doubt. I think total, all in all, between getting the separate meter put in and the contractor to put in the irrigation system, it was probably $6,000. Now, that's a lot of money, and that's just for the cost of the system and not including the water that I pay for every month as well. So it's a huge investment. But it also, we always talk about time is money, and being out in the lawn is something that is important to me. Having a nice lawn is something important to me. So having an irrigation system is something that is important to me. And so in today's podcast, I just want to share maybe some insights, some things that maybe I've learned or enjoyed about my irrigation system, maybe offer some advice to you if I had to do it again. What would I do differently? And what are some non-negotiables? Let's just get into it. So the very first thing that I want you to think about when you are in the process, or maybe you're thinking about getting an irrigation system, is make sure you're hiring a quality contractor. Now, I'm assuming that you're going to be hiring someone to be installing your irrigation system for you. Certainly, you could do it yourself. You can save an absolute ton of money. I guess I probably could have done it on my own. But again, time is money. I didn't really have the time. I didn't want to rent a trencher and do all that. And not to mention, I don't necessarily trust my skills to be able to do it. So I wanted to hire someone qualified to do it. Matter of fact, the neighborhood that we live in, the groundskeeper here is actually the one who put in my irrigation system. He's retired from the golf course and is now in residential, and all he does is install irrigation systems. A really great guy. He's been doing it for 20 some years, tons of experience, and he just did a fantastic job. So he came highly recommended. Matter of fact, this is the second or third irrigation system that he has put in my home, and I trust him. I trust that he's going to use quality equipment. He's going to do it right the first time. And that's what I want for you. When you're investing that amount of money into an irrigation system, it is so important that you are getting a quality contractor. Sure, you could go out and find somebody that is the cheapest, and I want you to save money during this process, but don't be cheap. Don't be skimpy, because like most things, you get what you pay for. All right, so looking at a quality contractor, number one, make sure they come highly, referred. Ask your neighbors. Ask, if you're interviewing for a contractor, ask to speak to some of their clients and maybe go view one of their installs and ask how satisfied they are. Maybe look up some Google reviews, things like that. But you want to make sure that you're hiring somebody who knows what they're doing. Get multiple quotes as well. I think that's probably just good life advice anytime we're getting a project done. But get some multiple quotes and then compare them against each other, because one of the most important things about getting an irrigation system is getting proper coverage. So when you look at maybe comparing one quote to another, one contractor may have 70 heads to cover your lawn, and another one may say it takes 90 heads to cover your lawn. Well, looking at 90 heads may cover your lawn. 70 heads may, in fact, cover your lawn. And the only way you're going to know that is by looking at their quote, analyzing it, and making sure that you're getting what we call head-to-head coverage. That is something so important. So that's a factor that drives up your cost. The more heads, the more coverage you have, the better. And I'll just say this, more heads is better than less. You're going to be happier in the long run. We're going to talk a little bit later about maybe with the equipment that I would recommend and the reason why. But you'll never be dissatisfied with more than you will if you didn't have good coverage. It's really hard. It's really hard to go back and repair or make changes once the system is in. So we talked about head-to-head coverage. All right. Let's talk about equipment for just a second, because I was just kind of mentioning that. When it comes to equipment, I personally I would stick with either Hunter or Rainbird. I have experience with both. I personally prefer Hunter over Rainbird. And the main reason is Hunter heads, you actually have the ability to shut them off. You can turn off each individual head. Now, if your lawn is set up where you've got, maybe some trees, maybe shaded areas, sometimes you get too much coverage, right? And you need to be able to shut off certain heads in different places, because certain times of the year, especially like the front of my house, it gets shaded and that part of the lawn doesn't need as much water. So having those Hunter I-20 heads gives me the ability to shut them off. Again, they're not the cheapest, but I wanted to have that ability. That was something that was extremely important to me. Matter of fact, when the gentleman put in the irrigation system, the first time I didn't understand the importance of that. And so now looking back on it, that was an incredible recommendation on his part, and I'm so glad he had the foresight. And again, that goes right back to making sure that you're choosing a quality contractor. He knew my needs before I ever even needed it to begin with. So thankful for that. Let's talk about timing for a second. If you can work with a contractor and you can time this project appropriately, the better. And what do I mean by that? When it comes to doing this project, it's going to really tear up your lawn pretty harsh. And so it's going to need some repair. So why not time this around maybe mid to late summer, so that they're putting in the irrigation system and then you're moving into fall when you're going to seed anyway. So don't do this in the wintertime where you're going to have to look at those bare spots for the entire winter, spring, and then into summer. Or don't do it in the springtime either. Again, do it whenever you want, but just understand that you're going to have some damage and you don't want to look at your ugly lawn for the next 3 or 4 months. So try to time this to where you're doing it in the middle to late summer. Another thing that I wish I had done when I had my system put in was put in some hose spigot connections, maybe 1 or 2 out in the middle of the lawn, or even one up by the house. And the reason why I say that is when I had my system put in, I put in a separate meter. So the city measures not only the water that I use, but they also bill me for my sewage as well. And so the separate meter, I don't pay for that sewage. I only pay for the water, which is a significant rate reduction. And that's really what is all of my savings come from having put in the system and paying for that extra water meter. Was I'm not paying for that sewage, that water treatment after the fact when you use water. So what I wish I had done is had maybe an extra tap put in, maybe 1 or 2 out in the lawn somewhere, and then maybe one up by the house that I could use to maybe wash cars, or add in maybe some extra sprinklers if I need to when I maybe have the system turned off or whatever. It just would have been really nice to have the ability to hook a hose up maybe at 2 or 3 different points, especially up by the house where I'm washing cars. That would have been really, really smart. Now I could probably go in and add that in and retrofit that now, but I wish I had done that in the beginning. Again, we talked about the Hunter I-20 heads. Make sure when you are getting a system put in, your controller, this is the box that actually controls the different valves and tells them to open and close. Try to get one that is Wi-Fi enabled, and then make sure you get some sort of rain sensor. Those are 2 really important factors. Number 1, we want a Wi-Fi controller because we want to be able to control the sprinkler from really anywhere that we have internet. So maybe you're out on vacation and you need to be able to control your irrigation system. Maybe it rained and you know that the system doesn't need to run. Well, you can shut it off from your phone while you're on vacation. Or Maybe it's getting ready to call for rain and you're at work. Well, you can shut it off that way. And that's just really, really convenient. Not to mention when you're out working on your system, when I'm out blowing out my lines, it's really nice to have that Wi-Fi enabled. I pull it up on my phone. I can turn on a zone and blow it out and not have to go back and forth between the controller. Again, that costs a little bit extra, but for me, it was totally worth it. And then secondly, make sure you get a system with a rain sensor. There is nothing that drives me more nuts than when a person is watering their lawn in the middle of the rain. I know a lot of these Wi-Fi controllers especially will have a weather app on them, and they'll be able to dictate whether or not it's raining. But that's not always entirely accurate. Sometimes the forecast will say that it's raining currently when it's not actually raining at your house. So I think they're maybe $100 to have that extra rain sensor put on there. They work phenomenally well, and they'll stop your lawn from watering when it's raining, and that's just wasting water. So that's really, really important. One of the last things I wish I had done when I had my system put in is had a shutoff put between the backflow preventer and the blowout valve. So on your system, every system will have to have what's called a backflow preventer. And basically what that does is stops any groundwater from potentially leaching back into your system and then getting up into your house. That would obviously sounds really bad, and it is bad, and we don't want that to happen. So by law, you have to put a backflow preventer. Well, when I hook up a air compressor to my lines and blow out my system, I wish I had a shutoff between that connection and where the backflow preventer is. And the only reason I say that is because it's really not advisable to have that air pressure pushing back on that backflow preventer. They usually say that that's not advisable. So if I had some way of a shutoff or something in between that would have been really, really nice. Not to mention, that also gives me the ability to isolate that backflow preventer. That's probably, maybe other than the valves, is probably the most expensive part of the system. Not only is the unit itself expensive, replacing it and repairing it is extremely expensive. So having that shut off there would just save me maybe a little bit of headache down the road. I'm not really sure if I'm doing a whole lot of damage by blowing back in there. Again, I guess the guy who put in the system, if he felt like it was an issue, he probably would have put it in. Again, he has way more experience than I do, but just having read articles, they say that you want to isolate that and be able to shut off any air from pushing back on that backflow preventer. But other than that, I mean, that's really it. Make sure you have a quality contractor. Try to get the timing right. Choose a good head. Make sure you've got really good head-to-head coverage. Get a Wi-Fi controller with a rain or some kind of rain sensor, and then make sure you add some of those spigot connections out into your lawn. Those would certainly be advantageous for you. And again, not wasting money, not paying for sewage to wash a car when I could be using that other line. But that's about it, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast today. If you have a question about anything that I said about irrigation systems, I'd love to be able to point you in the right direction. Leave me a comment down below. I really appreciate you checking out the podcast. My name is Devin. I'm the DIY Lawn Coach. Hope you guys have a great week. I'll see you next week. Peace.